Hi, just a couple of days ago, in the community side of the channel on YouTube, I put the question to fellow Manchester United fans, which was who is United's player of the season? And the choices were, as you can see here, the choices were Casemiro, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, and Lisandro Martinez. And overwhelmingly, right now, after 150 votes. It appears that Casemiro with 51% of the vote. So what's that? 70, call it 76 votes out of 150. It looks like Casemiro is everybody's player of the season. Player of the season, Casemiro. And what do I think about that? I mean, I think Casemiro has been kind of like we were after a CDM. We knew we needed a CDM for a good few seasons before we got Casemiro. And obviously we weren't surprised. Well, I was surprised by the effect that Casemiro had on the team when he came in. Yeah, there've been a few negatives, such as like red cards and yellows. But what was more surprising about the fact he was picking up cards was the fact that he had not in over 500 games, for Real Madrid and his previous club in his home country, Brazil, that he hadn't picked up a red card previously. Um, does that mean that the Prem is a more challenging environment to play football based on the fact that it's becoming less of a physical sport here in the UK? I'm not sure, or maybe it's just a case of that in Spain and other places that they let dirtier tackles, let's say for lack of a better description, uh, go. They let them go. That refs allow the more physical side of the game. Um, got to admit, I prefer the more physical side of the game. So the fact that Casemiro received those two bans, one straight red and one double yellows, one was two yellows, I did feel like he was being treated unfairly. Um, but that's in the past now. But for me, that is the only blemish on Casemiro's time at United so far, because he's shown not only can he score goals, not only has he got more in his locker than just being a defensive midfielder, he can drive forward, he can become a somewhat of a playmaker. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's no Bruno Fernandes, but he is more than we expected him to be, which is absolutely fantastic. And I can tell you that when United signed Casemiro, that wasn't. I doubt that was sanctioned by um, Eric Ten Hag, and Eric Ten Hag really didn't know what he was getting in Casemiro. So it was most likely that's why Casemiro didn't start those first few games, and we saw like McTominay still starting. And then again, it's no surprise that once Casemiro got his feet on the pitch, that it was difficult to replace him because he just is that kind of player. He's so influential. I mean, he was so influential in scoring two goals in our final charge to finishing third in the Premier League last season. So the fact that the fans are voting for him as being the player of the season, I'm just not surprised at all, to be honest. I did wonder whether Bruno Fernandes may challenge for that. And a bit surprised that he only got 13% of the vote. Um, but, he did play a lot of games last season, and that edge to his game did disappear, and he looked frustrated quite a lot. So I suppose just for the fact that he was always there, stalwart, a regular for the side who would never kind of want to let you down, um, wasn't enough for fans. But as for Marcus Rashford with 24%, I'm a little surprised with that too, if I'm honest. I did think it'd be a little bit closer, but the reason I don't think it is close is because, right, okay, Rashford scored 17 goals in the Prem, 30 goals across the season in all competitions. But again, ultimately, the lad goes missing unless he's scoring goals. I mean, in the FA Cup final against City, I felt a little bit disgusted with him at times, if I'm honest. It was like he wasn't taking that game as seriously as the occasion required. But he wasn't the only one. I mean, there were a few other players, and I could name Bruno Fernandes in that too. But then again, Fernandes was probably absolutely exhausted, having played more games than any other player in European football last season. But as for Rashford, he does go missing in games. He can score. Yeah, okay, he scored our goals. He's led the line as such this last season. But other than his goal contribution, he really particularly does nothing on the pitch. I don't highly rate him as a footballer, as an out and out footballer. Um, but he's reaching his prime now. I was going to say, but he can improve. But he is, basically in his prime now. Um, and I don't think he can be leading the line for us from a goal point of view next season. But obviously, I do hope that he can continue to score the goals at the rates that he did this season, this last season. Um, Lisandro Martinez, I do believe that if he'd finished the season, he'd seen the season out, then he would have been he would have received a higher percentage of votes um, in this poll. But I still don't think he would have come out on top of Casemiro. I totally agree with the fans who have voted for Casemiro to be the number one. But some fans, I mean, if you see here, well, under here it's saying that if you don't agree, if you don't, let's say you didn't want Casemiro, you didn't think it was Marcus Rashford, you didn't think it was Bruno Fernandes or Lisandro Martinez, you could in the comments just share who you thought it would be. And as you can see here, someone's put David De Gea without. Sorry, someone put this. David De Gea, without his shot stopping abilities at Old Trafford, we'd have finished outside of the top four. So basically, what he's saying is this guy thinks that Darren, this is my namesake, by the way, same name as me. David De Gea, without his shot stopping abilities, um, yeah. So without David De Gea, United would have finished outside the top four. So the fact that at Old Trafford he was the top goalkeeper in the Prem, and overall he was a top goalkeeper in the Prem, even though people are slagging him off and saying they want rid of him. So yeah, is a proof of that. Underneath that comment, there's another comment from Shreed Haran. He says Raya and other goalkeepers not doing anything? Question mark. As in, like they're not saying they're not. Am I whoever it is? The comment before was saying, are they not good enough? We're not going to win any major trophies with David De Gea. He's so shit with the ball at his feet, and we're losing possession mostly because of him. Eric Ten Hag going to bench him next season. You can screenshot this if you want, lol. And my response to that, I responded to that, and I put he'll be benched if Sheikh Jim takes over, but he'll be number one if Sir Jim stays. So you know what I mean by that. I mean if Sheikh Jim takes over, there's likely there could be some additional money this transfer window. And I think it is true that um, Eric Ten Hag doesn't really see David De Gea as the number one for the future, and nor should he be, because at the end of the day, you do need to be constantly looking to improve your squad. And Eric Ten Hag will bring in players and hope that they challenge the stalwarts in the positions that we have already. So like the David De Gea's, the Bruno Fernandes's, the Marcus Rashfords, bringing in players to challenge them, and if they are good enough, then they will become they will replace those players on the pitch. So David De Gea has no God-given right to be United's number one. So I have to agree with that. Other comments are suggesting to do with David De Gea, suggesting that he's leaving to the Middle East, going to the Middle East this summer. As far as I know, he may still sign a contract, yes, on reduced terms, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. And talking about Casemiro, there's another comment. It's considering he moved from La Liga, which many people think is inferior to the Premier League. Casemiro has been excellent this season. He needs to get less bookings and avoid red cards next season. He has popped up some very important goals and assists, plus brought winning mentality to the dressing room and on the pitch. I yeah, got to agree. He's brought that winning mentality, that never say die mentality, that is you can do more mentality onto the pitch. Now, I just think that there are some kind of like semi prima donnas in the United squad who probably think they've already made it, and they don't need to look at the likes of Casemiro or even Varane, and think, well, these guys have done it, been it, seen it all, and I can learn from them. I think there are a few, at least two players of not prominent players in the United side who feel that way. And I think hopefully, we can get some players in to challenge them and help force them on or ship them out. And that's what Ten Hag needs to do. Um, well, anyway, this vote is still active. So if you haven't had your say yet, go to the homepage of the United Voice channel. Uh, on the menu, there's the community. Click on the community and have a look for this vote. It's the first post you'll come across. Uh, you can vote for Casemiro, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Lisandro Martinez, or in the comments you can suggest who you think it should be if that player isn't on that list, and let the community know what you think, and join in with the conversation. Thanks for watching. Please smash a like on the video, and if you like the channel, please subscribe. Thank you.